Hey there, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a topic that pretty much runs our world. From your morning coffee to massive global markets, we're talking about economics. But don't worry, forget the scary-looking charts and complicated jargon. At its heart, economics is really just the story of our choices. And believe it or not, it all kicks off with a really simple question. So picture this. You've got some extra cash. Are you going to spend it on your daily coffee fix for the next few weeks? Or are you going to go all out and buy that ticket to see your favorite band? You know you probably can't do both. Right there, that simple everyday decision, well, that's the starting line for all of economics. Yeah, it might seem a little weird, but this whole massive field, we're talking global trade, government policy, the works, it all begins right there. It starts with you and a simple, rock-solid fact of life. You just can't have everything you want. Now, economists have a special word for this problem, scarcity. And this is the big one. It's the idea that we live in a world with limited stuff, limited time, money, and resources. But our wants? Oh, our wants are pretty much infinite. This constant tension, this gap between what we want and what we can actually have, is the engine that drives basically every single economic decision. And because we always have to choose, every single decision you make has a kind of hidden price tag. It's called opportunity cost. And get this. It's not just about the money you spent. The real opportunity cost is the value of the thing you didn't choose. It's the next best thing you had to give up to get what you wanted. So, let's go back to our choice. If you decide to buy the concert ticket, the cost isn't just the price on the ticket. No way. The true opportunity cost is all those delicious coffees you're now not going to have. That's the real price of your choice. Every single thing we do is a trade-off. Okay, so that's your choice. But what happens when millions and millions of people are all making these kinds of choices at the same time? Well, you get a market. And this is where things start to get really interesting. This dance between all the buyers and all the sellers, it's all guided by two incredibly powerful forces, supply and demand. The best way to think about it is like a huge conversation. Supply is what's available to be sold. Demand is what everyone wants to buy. And the price? The price is where they meet in the middle and agree. The guy who basically invented modern economics, Adam Smith, he totally nailed this. He had this brilliant insight that a market can organize itself perfectly well without anyone being in charge. I mean, the baker doesn't bake your bread because she's a saint. She does it to make a living. But by looking out for herself, she ends up providing something the whole community needs. Smith called this amazing, self-organizing force the invisible hand. So we've gone from a personal choice to a whole marketplace. Now let's zoom out one more time and look at the health of an entire country's economy. This is the big picture stuff, macroeconomics. If the small choices are like individual trees, macroeconomics is about looking at the entire forest. You can think of it like a doctor's checkup for a country. We're measuring its vital signs to see if the whole system is healthy and growing, or maybe if it's getting a little sick. And the three most important vital signs you'll always hear about are GDP, inflation, and unemployment. Let's break it down real simple. GDP is basically the nation's total annual salary. Inflation is just how fast your money is losing its spending power. And unemployment, well, that's a measure of how many people who want to work just can't find a job. Okay, so we can measure how healthy the economy is, but what's the best way to actually manage it? This one question leads to some of the biggest, most passionate debates in all of history, the different blueprints for how to run a society. Really, you can boil it down to three main approaches. You've got capitalism, which is all about private ownership and free markets, hoping that competition will lead to the best results. Then there's communism, where the government controls pretty much everything, aiming for total equality. And somewhere in the middle, you have socialism, which tries to blend private business with government oversight. Each one is a different answer to the big question of how to balance freedom and fairness. And even within these systems, there's a huge debate. The classical view, coming from Adam Smith, is that markets work best when you just leave them alone. That invisible hand will sort everything out. But then an economist named John Maynard Keynes came along and argued that actually, when there's a big crisis, the government must step in to manage things and get the economy back on its feet. This whole hands-off versus hands-on argument, it's still at the very center of our political debates today. So once you have these fundamental building blocks, scarcity, supply and demand, the big frameworks, you start to realize that economics isn't just some boring subject. It's like a special pair of glasses for understanding almost every single part of our world. These core ideas are a super powerful toolkit. Take environmental economics, for example. It uses concepts like opportunity cost to ask, what's the true cost of pollution? Or labor economics. That's just using supply and demand to understand wages and jobs. From international trade to personal finance, these principles help us tackle some of the world's biggest problems. And that's really the main takeaway here. It all connects. We started this whole journey with a simple choice between coffee and a concert. And from that one little idea of scarcity, we built our way up through markets and national policy, all the way to the entire global system. Economics is the framework that ties it all together. So, I'll leave you with a question to chew on. Now that you have this new framework, what invisible economic forces will you spot out in the wild today? When you see a price change at the grocery store, or you make a trade-off with your time, or you hear a debate on the news, maybe, just maybe, you'll see the hidden logic playing out in a completely new way. Thanks for tuning in.